Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Etacute back for another live stream. Thought I'd do another live stream. It's been a while. Let me just get everything right. Well, it's not right, but let's try and sit closer to the center, I guess. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric, and I like to live stream and talk about teaching occasionally. Yeah, I've been a teacher for a while, and I've been live streaming for a while. Although it doesn't look like it, I've done it once or twice in my life. I'm sitting quite far down. I hope you guys don't mind. Tell me where you're from. Leave your name and where you're from in the comments down below. And if you've got a question about teaching, please put it in the comments down below or to the side. Actually, we've got a topic today. The topic today is PPP versus ESA, which are two teaching methodologies. And a lot of new teachers might have some questions about what is PPP or what is ESA and which one is better, especially when it comes to beginner learners. So I'm going to do a presentation and we're going to talk about PPP versus ESA for language learners or for language teachers, whichever you prefer. So yeah, I'll just take a couple of minutes just to get settle those nerves and talk a little bit. I'm just trying to get this. Let's try and move it. Better? Maybe. We'll see. Can everyone hear me? I didn't even put on the sound. There might be zero sound. Who knows? But, it's nice to be here. It's nice to see all of you here. I used to do this every week, and I'm going to try and come back and do this every week. So, yeah, if you're new here or if you're there, you can put it in the comments down below. Let's see. Have I got everything right? I think so. I think it's going to be fun, guys. Yeah, I'm busy with some work, especially some topics on teachers quitting, on teaching reading. I've done some courses on how to teach reading, how to teach phonics, how to teach young learners or older learners that don't know how to read, how to teach ESL. I've done topic videos on activities, on grammar. Well, what I want to work on next is I'd like to work on a grammar series and a lesson plan series to show some ways to teach specific grammar. I can see all things biblical here. Hi. And my mom too. Sound is good. Excellent. I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, so I'm just going to take a couple of minutes. We'll see if it takes an hour. We'll see how long it takes. And I think what I'll do is I'll do this presentation with this live stream. Maybe later I'll cut it up and put it out as a video just to take out all the ums and ahs that I tend to put in. But yeah, guys, it's a pleasure to have you here. And also, you'll see in the comments down below, I've got a sponsor for this year. They're called CoGrader. It's an AI essay grader. It's a fantastic resource, saving teachers lots of time. And I've put that in the description below too. I'll make some videos for them during the week too, but during the month for them too. Okay, guys, I think, let me see if I can share this. Give me a second, share screen. No. Wait. This is what happens. You get rusty. You don't do this for a long time, so you get rusty. Okay, let's go present. Okay, it's presenting, and then I go here. You guys can see what I'm doing, but we'll see. Here we go. Share. Okay, can everyone see me well now? I think it looks okay. Yeah, so we've got PPP versus ESA. Which one is better for beginners? A practical comparison of two core lesson frameworks for beginner English classes. What are they? How they work? When each helps most? Because, I think when it comes to these frameworks or methodologies, it's just a fancy way these days. It's a fancy way of saying how to teach students, and a lot of these things we start doing without even thinking about it. So a lot of professors out there, they try and put a name on it and we can understand it better. So how to choose the safer model for your student. It's not a bomb. You don't have to worry. It's safe for all your learners to use whichever. But if you use this mindset of PPP versus ESA, then it'll help you navigate things easier. So let's see, what are they? Okay, no, I skipped a slide. So what is PPP and what is ESA and what do they mean? So PPP is presentation, practice, and production. So the teacher introduces the language, presentation, then they practice. So the students do language drills with one another. They write it down, or you do some activities with them. You drill it with them, and then the students use it in production, some communicative aspect. So they can create a role play or practice a dialogue, create a dialogue. So it's some way of doing it. And now most ESL teachers know PPP. That's what we're supposed to use in the classroom in many cases. But then recently, a lot of teachers started talking about ESA: engage, study, and activate. Activate. That's a fun word. The class starts with interest. So you bring up the topic, let's say the topic is sport. Maybe you can show some football, some different sportsmen and women, or if you can show a restaurant menu, and then that activates the students, and then you use that for the class. So start with interest, you activate, and then you study the language. So let's say you can take some grammar from it, or you can take some vocabulary. If it's something like sportsmen, you can use can or can't, or you can use a different grammar. If, let's say, talking about the past, so you can bring up the past tense, or some of the vocabulary that's interesting to them. And so they study the language and then they use it in a task. So we've got these two, the PPP and the ESA. By the way, I'll occasionally, every now and again, I'll just check if everything's okay. Everything's okay. So next slide. So PPP at a glance, a straight line from input to use. So the presentation, the teacher models one target item with clear examples, and you also check the meaning. You're constantly looking for feedback from your students, basically pinging off of them. You're asking them questions, and they've got to focus and answer. I feel like a lot of teachers during this phase where they teach something, they take on all the responsibility without checking in with the students and putting some pressure, asking them to communicate too. That activate, that gets the students involved. So you've got to, even while you're teaching something, try and ask your students some questions or use them as examples. Say, okay, well, yesterday I met Jimmy. So Jimmy, Jimmy was walking. Let's say if you're doing the past continuous tense, So you give some examples, and you ask, oh, Jimmy, what about you? Where were you yesterday? What were you doing at 1 p.m. yesterday? Oh, I was studying. Oh, he was studying. Okay. They were attending school, whatever it might be. So you take these examples and you put them in. Then the students practice. So they can do controlled drills, gap fills, they can do some dialogues or some grammar tasks to do. That's very easy. I think it's very useful if you do have flashcards, or if you have some pictures for students to use, or you can ask them to, the gap fills are very useful. I love sentences where the students have to read it out, especially if you have a large class. You go through the class and all the students get a chance to answer. And then the production is where the students use it more freely in a short speaking or writing task. Usually with a partner, they do a role play or a dialogue, or you can even do where they have to talk to multiple students in the classroom to do that. And then usually at the end, you play some kind of game or do an activity where they can practice again. So PPP is the best one for precise language point for beginners. Because the beginners can see exactly, you can structure it. So you've got your presentation, so you know exactly what you're going to teach them. the practice, you know what activities they're going to do, and then the production. So it's very useful for beginner students because you can structure your lesson very simply. And it's very common for grammar, functional phrases, and high frequency beginner vocabulary. Okay, so vocabulary that students often run into. Now let's look at ESA at a glance. Interest first, language second, and then they use the last one. We can see there's a photo album there, and everyone's involved doing something. So engage. Start with a picture, a question, a short story, or simple task that creates curiosity. So where PPP is very functional, this ESA is more about curiosity and getting the students engaged and motivated to learn, making it fun and interesting. And the next part is study. Focus on the target language, the meaning, the form, the pronunciation in a short, explicit. So first, you engage the students by attracting their attention to something, and then you go on to the study phase where you focus on the target language or the meaning or something you want to study, and then activate the students use the language in a meaningful task with less teacher control. It often feels more natural and student-centered than PPP. I also feel, yeah, so you get this more with your more advanced students or your older students, where maybe as the teacher, you bring up the topic and then you can focus on what you want to study, and then you activate and you use the language. So it's often not as structured as PPP. The core difference, control versus curiosity. PPP begins with teacher control and ends with learner independence. ESA begins with learner interest and still ends in free use. PPP because prioritizes clarity of form. ESA prioritizes motivation and context before analysis. Okay, so why do most beginner teachers just go to PPT? Well, that's the one we've been taught first. Beginners usually need strong modeling before they can speak confidently. Controlled practice reduces cognitive load when language is new. It's easy to plan, sequence, and time, like I said before. It supports textbook grammar and vocabulary aims. And a lot of textbooks start like this. You start with your vocabulary, or you start with a conversation, and that leads to the grammar that you're going to learn. And then there are other activities, speaking activities or reading or listening activities after that. It helps teachers catch pronunciation, form, and meaning errors early. Very important because, like I said, you've got to present, and then, the students are going to practice it. So that's when you can actually check up on them so that you can see that they know. So why the ESA model can feel more natural for new learners. The lessons open with a topic or image or quick activity so students know why the language matters. Meaning comes first, which can reduce fear and increase attention. Yeah, because you're starting with the topic, the students know what it's about. Often I like to do this with my students if I know this is a grammar point they've studied before or they should get quickly. I try to start with it, start with a lead in hand. And then I'll say, okay, well, this is what we're going to study today. This is the topic. Activation tasks can make simple language feel real, not mechanical, because it feels, it feels very natural as you go through it. You're like, hey, this is the topic. And they're like, oh, let's explore and find it out together. And you can bring it up in a more natural way. I think there's another word I want to use for organic. That's a word I wanted to use. It's a bit more organic as we go. Who do we have here? We've got Sondor. Hello, everyone. Hey, Sondor. It's nice to see all of you guys. You can tell me where you're from. You can put in the comments if you like. Wait, where am I? Am I still? Oh, I'm still busy. Oh, yeah. Right, go full screen. Sorry, I exited. Okay. The model encourages learner participation earlier than PPT, and it creates a nice warm atmosphere. Okay, so the beginner reality is that limited language makes scaffolding essential. So because the students don't have a lot of vocabulary and they're still not as confident as it comes to their grammar and the amount of language they are able to use. Scaffolding, preparing the students is very important. So at beginner level, students cannot freely improvise for long. They need sentence frames, model answers, visual cues, and tight task limits. Without scaffolding, ESA's activate stage can become silent. So the students follow along in ESA until they get to the last part of like, okay, guys, time for you to talk and to activate. And then they don't. They just freeze. Whereas PPP can become rote repetition. I can also say that students feel a bit safer in PPP, where they know, okay, well, the teacher's going to teach it, and then we've got this practice, and then we have the production where we have to create. So it's easier for them, but it can be rote repetition where they just repeat things without really engaging it as much. And as we know, if students are more motivated to learn something, they enjoy it more, they're more likely to learn. Okay, what am I saying? A beginner PPP lesson example, introducing "This is my." So present the phrase with real objects or pictures. This is my book. Highlight meaning and structure. Subject is possessive plus noun. Practice with substitution. This is my pen. This is my bag. This is my notebook. This is his phone. Produce a short speaking task. Introduce classroom items to a partner. You have to introduce 5 items to your friend. Keep the final task short, safe, and highly supported to success is immediate. Okay, so you do the practice and then you produce. So a beginner lesson for ESA, an example is teaching family words. So we can see mom, dad, brother, sister. So engage with family photos, a simple set or short personal story. So you can show a family photo and you can say, this is my dad, this is my sister, this is my cousin, this is our dog. And then you can ask them, do you have a mother? Do you have a sister? Do you have a brother? Who is this? And then the students they study the keywords, they can practice it, and then activate by drawing a family tree and describing it with sentences. So they create a family tree, and then they've got to explain it to a partner. This is mine. Use pair work so students hear the target language repeatedly in context, add visuals and STEM. So you can see it's not that different. The only difference is that with ESA, well, not the only difference, but the main difference with ESA is that you start with something to motivate the students and engage them, and you activate everything first. It's just a fancy way of saying that you're presenting, you're presenting the grammar and the topic. It's just another way of starting it. So engage, study, activate. So what beginners need most? Clarity, repetition, and safe output. For absolute beginners, the best lesson design usually gives 3 things: clear input, so they understand exactly, repeated guided practice, and a very small amount of supported output. So you're not always going to fix all the errors, just the most important ones. That is why PPP often feels safer for first contact learners. I think I mentioned that before. Okay. And then where PPP is strongest for beginners, teaching one new grammar structure at a time, as I am, there is, or I have. Introducing survival vocabulary that needs exact recall, classroom objects, colors, numbers, and days. Lessons where the syllabus coverage matters and they need a clean sequence. Classes with low confidence, where students benefit from predictable steps and lots of support. Situations where accuracy matters before speed, fluency, and creativity. Okay. So when you want to teach on a budget. Okay, then when is ESA strongest for beginners? Because we can already say that for advanced students, we can see many situations where it's better. Building classroom energy at the start of a lesson so learners are alert and involved. Teaching language through visual or personal context instead of starting with rules. Encouraging beginners to respond meaningfully. Lessons focused on confidence, participation, and memory through interaction. Classes where the teacher can provide strong scaffolds in the activate stage. So if you support your students enough during some of those stages. By the way, let's just see what's going on. My dad's here. Hi, thanks for this. Hi, Dad. It's my pleasure. Okay, now let's go to the next one. The biggest risk with PPP: too much teacher talk. We've already said this is a big problem with teachers. PPP can turn into an explanation-heavy teaching if the presentation stage is too long. Beginners can get little chance to process language actively. So the fix for this is a brief explanation, fast modeling, and multiple short practice cycles. Yeah, so you're not going to do it for too long, So great AI picture. Yeah, listen, it's not bad. Okay, cooking material. Okay, the biggest risk with ESA: an overly open activation stage. ESA can fail when learners have too little language to complete the task. If the task is too open, students revert to their first language or stay silent. Beginners need sentence starters, examples, and narrow task goals. Okay, so what does great beginner scaffolding look like in both models? Sentence frames like "this is my" or "I like" to reduce production load. Visual support includes pictures, objects, gestures, and timelines. Maybe some group repetition, short pair drills for them to practice before they do independent speaking. And then also limits, just one structure. You don't try too much at the same time, one context or one clear outcome. So, and also model answers so students can copy and practice quickly with students so that they know what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, accuracy, fluency, and confidence, how the two models differ. PPP leans towards accuracy first because form is practiced before freer use. ESA can build confidence early through context and engagement. Both support fluency if the final task is meaningful and short. Beginners need accuracy to avoid errors, especially with new forms. Confidence grows fastest when students succeed in tiny, achievable steps. Okay, now the simple rule of thumb for teachers: if the target language is new, precise, or easily confused, PPP is usually the safer choice. If the aim is to spark interest, connect language to real context, and keep the class lively, ESA is the better model. Okay, so topic by topic choice. When PPP or ESA fits better. Grammar forms, PPP. Essential vocabulary, PPP, but ESA can work if the visuals create meaning. Personalized speaking, ESA feels more natural. If you're teaching one-on-one or older students, and then mixed ability classes, PPP. So in most cases, you'd want to go with the PPP model, unless you're working with stronger students, you can support them. You want them to be more creative. Okay, how much language can beginners handle in the activate stage? Not much at first. A strong activate task may last only 2 to 5 minutes. Use one or two sentence patterns and rely on visual prompts or partner support. Success comes from repetition with real purpose, not length. Okay, so why not use a hybrid? The way that we're teaching, most of us are doing some kind of hybrid form where we use these ideas within our teaching. So you could begin with an engage task to create attention and context, move into study to clarify exact language support, add a short control practice before the final step, or use a narrow activation task with sentence frames and model answers. It keeps the energy, but it also helps with the PPP support. Now, let's look at an example of a hybrid lesson. Ordering at a restaurant. You can start with menu pictures to engage. Study "I like," "can I have," then finish with a short role play. This keeps the task communicative without abandoning the structure beginners need to speak successfully. So, how to decide in 30 seconds before a lesson? Ask 3 questions. Is the language brand new? Do learners need heavy support? Is the outcome accuracy or communication? If the first 2 answers are yes, PPP is usually safer. If you want engagement and context, then use ESA. Teacher mistakes that can make either model weaker. Using long explanations, so using up way too much teacher talking time instead of short, memorable examples. Giving beginners a task with too many language choices at once. Skipping modeling and expecting immediate independent production. Now, I've seen this one a lot, and it irks me. Is that a lot of teachers that just expect the students to be able to do something instead of modeling it and practicing it with them first. Choosing a fun activity with no clear target language outcome. We can all fall victim to that because we just want the students to enjoy. Ending before learners have repeated the target language enough to remember it. So you move on and already they forgot. So a beginner-friendly recommendation for absolute beginners, PPP is usually the safer starting point because it offers clarity, pacing, and controlled practice. ESA becomes stronger as learners gain confidence, especially when a teacher uses more visuals, frames, and tightly scaffolded tasks. Okay, so the final takeaway for new teachers: PPP is better for precision. ESA is better for energy. Beginners usually need both, but not in equal amounts. Start with a model that matches the lesson goal, then borrow the best feature from the other one to strengthen the final task. And that's thanks to slide here. Okay. Everyone, give me a second while I sort this out. 1, 2, 3. Aha! I'm back. Okay, guys. Well, yeah, it's interesting talking about these models. I'll try and do more live streams in the future because I enjoy it, and I kind of miss doing these. In the past I would just naturally do them, but now, if I can present something or share something, then I'd like to do that instead of me just chatting about life in general. But life in general is very good. My wife and I are living together. We're enjoying our time, and things at university going really well. I do have a friend who's going through a really difficult health situation, so prayers to them. And yeah, otherwise, summer's on its way. Just went hiking. Well, not hiking, but went to a nice forest today and walked around. I think it's important to get into nature, to walk and enjoy life. Ate really well, as I always do. You can see I'm big, but I'm also enjoying my exercise in the morning. Yeah, life's good. Now, what would I like to do? I guess the biggest issue we usually sit with is, we can have so many amazing things happen in life, but yet we're still looking um, at the small little things, like how can I improve my life? Well, I think the only things that I really can complain about are yeah, I'd like to. I need to make some videos, so I need to finish up with some videos that need to be done this week. I want to create some new videos, so I've got lots of work that I need to do. And I guess when summer comes around, I'd like to do a course and a whole. I think I'd like to do 100 video course on teaching grammar. Maybe create a very large curriculum and then explain how to teach it and make that a course, because a lot of teachers are asking, how would you teach this, or you're going into teaching. I mean, you can go on you can go on ChatGPT and you can ask, oh, how should I teach this? But I think it might help having a teacher just going through the grammar and sharing some activities and some tips and things to look out for, what to focus on. So I would love to do that during the summer break. I think that would be really nice. But yeah, everyone, it's a pleasure seeing all of you. I really enjoy doing these live streams. I wish you all a fantastic week, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the great support. Wait, it's almost exactly 30 minutes since I started. 30 minutes. Everyone, have a great day, evening, and goodbye.